Did you know that Bob Crane, renowned for his role as the quick-witted, charming Colonel Hogan on Hogan's Heroes, was once so captivated by the world of radio that he seriously considered abandoning television altogether to return full-time to on-air broadcasting? While audiences around the globe still remember him primarily for his comedic spark in that iconic 1960s sitcom, Crane initially saw himself as a radio man to the core. Even during his television heyday, he felt a magnetic pull toward the microphone, missing the exhilarating spontaneity of live broadcast. That revelation might surprise fans who recall him confidently matching wits with bumbling Nazi captors on primetime TV. Yet, it illuminates a deeper truth. Behind Crane's polished comedic persona lay a devoted craftsman who loved the immediacy and intimacy of connecting with an audience, whether in a small radio booth or on a Hollywood set. And it was precisely that unwavering desire to captivate and entertain that made his life's final tragedy, a brutal, unsolved murder, so especially haunting. To understand why Bob Crane's story still resonates, we need to step back into the cultural landscape of mid-century America. He was born on July 13, 1928, in Waterbury, Connecticut, just as the silent film era was yielding to the talkies, and radio networks were taking shape as a dominant form of entertainment. While the 1930s brought the Great Depression's hardships, radio shows thrived, offering comedic escapism and dramatic storytelling that families could gather around in their living rooms. By the 1940s and 50s, as prosperity gradually returned, radio announcers became genuine celebrities. Children dreamed of being the voice behind the airwaves in much the same way kids today imagine themselves on streaming platforms. Meanwhile, television was rapidly emerging from its experimental stage, overshadowing radio in terms of cultural influence by the time the 1960s arrived. Against this dynamic backdrop, Bob Crane found himself drawn to two distinct mediums: the vibrant, immediate world of radio and the bright possibilities of televised comedy. His balancing act between the two would help define his career and eventually his public image. Crane's childhood was relatively stable, shaped by supportive parents who recognized their son's early fascination with communication. Even as a young boy, he tinkered with homemade broadcast setups in his bedroom, using a small microphone to pretend he was announcing big band music to an invisible audience. Neighbors recall him as polite, but naturally comedic, always ready with a quick anecdote or a playful remark to break tension. High school became a proving ground for his comedic inclinations. He joined drama clubs and even launched a small lunchtime radio show over the school's public address system, spinning records and cracking gentle jokes about teachers. That sense of showmanship, married to a warm, approachable charm, hinted that he was destined to perform in front of a microphone. By the late 1940s, young Bob Crane was eager to jump into radio broadcasting in earnest. He served in the Connecticut Army National Guard, though he never saw active combat. Then he landed his first formal radio gig in Hornell, New York, followed by stints in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Even these small stations recognized his knack for comedic banter and skillful on-the-spot interviews. After a few years, he gained traction, eventually securing a position at a larger station in Los Angeles, a major break for a small-town broadcaster with big ambitions. The move introduced him to Tinseltown's glitz. During his LA radio days, Crane interviewed countless celebrities who drifted through the city, forging relationships that planted the seeds for a future pivot to TV. By the mid-1950s, radio in Los Angeles was fiercely competitive, but Crane's on-air zest, peppered with playful quips, caught the ear of influential figures in show business. His personal life during that period was also evolving. Crane married his high school sweetheart, Ann Terzian, and together they had children. Though he loved fatherhood, the demands of odd radio hours sometimes clashed with family routines. Yet he thrived on the interplay between domestic stability and the chaotic swirl of broadcasting. Friends recall him as the kind of guy who'd do a funny on-air segment about parenting, then come home to help with bedtime stories. That sense of comedic normalcy became a cornerstone of his brand. Bob Crane was the relatable family man who just so happened to crack jokes for a living. Meanwhile, TV roles, though minor at first, started trickling in, especially cameo spots on comedy and variety programs that needed a charismatic radio personality. The pivot to full-time TV fame happened with a role on The Donna Reed Show. Crane joined the cast in 1963 playing Dr. Dave Kelsey, a jovial neighbor figure. Though not the show's star, he stood out for his affable timing, quickly winning over viewers. Producers liked how naturally he riffed with the rest of the cast. He had a gift for comedic conversation gleaned from years of live radio. Encouraged by this success, Crane auditioned for bigger comedic opportunities. Just 2 years later, he nabbed the career-defining part of Colonel Robert E. Hogan in Hogan's Heroes. From 1965 to 1971, Hogan's Heroes would enthrall audiences, presenting a comedic spin on life inside a German POW camp, an unusual concept that, on paper, sounded risky. Yet Crane's comedic leadership as Hogan, orchestrating zany sabotage attempts against the camp's befuddled commandants, turned the show into a ratings triumph. During that 6-year run, Crane basked in an odd duality. He was the heroic ringleader on TV, guiding his ragtag team with confidence and wit. Yet off-screen, he remained approachable and sometimes shy. Co-stars recounted how he'd lighten the mood between takes, often pulling out his portable tape recorder to capture behind-the-scenes moments or amuse them with comedic commentary, an extension of his radio habits, perhaps. That habit of recording everything would later become a crucial element in the controversies swirling around his private life. For now, though, the 1960s was a golden era for Crane, beloved by fans, a face recognized in nearly every American household, and forging friendships with fellow comedic talents. He even ventured occasionally back into radio guest spots, relishing the chance to slip into that old format. Yet beneath the grin, Crane worried about being forever typecast as Colonel Hogan. He started scanning scripts for roles that might prove he had range beyond the comedic POW scenario. At the same time, his personal life grew more tangled. His marriage to Anne faced strains, culminating in divorce. He subsequently married Patricia Olson, an actress who had a supporting role on Hogan's Heroes, known professionally as Sigrid Valdez. They started a family life overshadowed by the demands of stardom. Meanwhile, Crane's developing interest in photography and videography moved beyond the benign realm of filming family gatherings. He and a close associate, John Henry Carpenter, delved into capturing their sexual encounters on film, an open secret among certain industry circles. The reasons for this fascination remain debated. Some suggest it sprang from Crane's love of technology and documentation. Others see it as an outgrowth of hidden personal cravings that clashed with his wholesome TV persona. Regardless, it was a private activity that would eventually cast a dark cloud over his public image once revealed. When Hogan's Heroes ended in 1971, Crane explored new comedic series, but none replicated that show's success. A short-lived sitcom called The Bob Crane Show aired in 1975, presenting him as a hapless father returning to medical school. Despite moderate promotional efforts, the show flopped. Critics noted a stale comedic premise, and viewers seemed unwilling to embrace Crane outside his iconic POW camp leader role. Hurt by the cancellation, he sought refuge in dinner theater performances, traveling the country to star in light comedies that played well with nostalgic fans. He found satisfaction in meeting audiences up close, signing autographs after shows. People still approached him with starry-eyed excitement, reminding him that Colonel Hogan had left an indelible mark. The dinner theater scene, while less glamorous, let Crane remain in the spotlight, albeit on a smaller scale. He even returned to radio occasionally, hosting local morning segments wherever his touring production might land. His comedic banter, always quick, delighted local audiences who remembered his mastery of live broadcasting. In the final years of his life, that behind-the-scenes obsession with recording sexual escapades loomed over his personal environment. He and John Henry Carpenter still socialized, hitting clubs or parties as Crane searched for female companionship. This double life perplexed some who knew Crane as a devout Christian, raised in a conservative environment. He even taught Sunday school at one point. The contradiction between comedic family entertainer and secret voyeur was stark. Some colleagues sensed discontent in him, a gnawing restlessness. Others said he insisted it was all in good fun, that he never meant harm. Tensions with his second wife, Patricia, escalated. She disliked Carpenter's influence and resented the men's questionable photography sessions. Crane found himself caught, hoping to maintain his friend's loyalty while patching up his marriage. In one telling instance, Crane confided to a close confidant that he was planning to sever ties with Carpenter, believing the arrangement had become toxic. He even considered returning wholeheartedly to local radio, thinking a stable routine might salvage his family life. By early 1978, Crane was performing in the stage comedy Beginner's Luck at the Windmill Dinner Theater in Scottsdale, Arizona. The show was a modest success, drawing decent local crowds. He rented a modest apartment nearby for the run, leaving Patricia back in California with the kids. Though separated from them, he sounded optimistic about returning soon with a fresh perspective. Former colleagues from Hogan's Heroes described him as upbeat, even if physically tired from nightly performances. He remained determined to keep forging a new comedic path. But in phone conversations, he hinted at reevaluating some personal relationships. Indeed, a few days before tragedy struck, Crane reportedly confronted Carpenter, declaring their partnership over. He wanted a clean break from the darker side of his life, though the details remain murky. On June 29, 1978, Bob Crane failed to show up for a lunch appointment with a fellow cast member. Concerned, they went to his apartment, discovering a scene that would shock the nation. Crane was found bludgeoned to death in his bed, an electrical cord around his neck. The brutality suggested a personal rage-fueled attack. Nothing else in the apartment seemed ransacked. The local police quickly zeroed in on John Henry Carpenter, suspecting a link to Crane's vow to end their association. Indeed, Crane's suspicious collection of tapes and photos indicated he might have recorded private encounters with women without their knowledge, possibly sowing seeds of resentment or blackmail concerns. Forensic evidence, however, was sparse. A single speck of blood in Carpenter's rental car was inconclusive, and the technology of the time couldn't provide definitive matches. Carpenter was eventually charged but acquitted due to insufficient evidence. No one else was indicted. Over 4 decades later, the homicide remains officially unsolved. The final moments of Bob Crane's life remain a painful enigma. Investigators deduced he was likely asleep when attacked. No signs of a struggle. The lethal blow delivered with something akin to a camera tripod or similar metal object. The killer apparently left him in bed, unceremoniously tossing the murder weapon. The shock waves reverberated instantly in the press. Headlines blared salacious references to secret sex tapes, overshadowing the comedic legacy for which fans cherished Crane. His second wife, devastated, had to face intrusive media speculation. Family members, including adult children from his first marriage, were left reeling in sorrow. The subsequent funeral in California was subdued with a swirl of whispers about who might be responsible for this horrifying crime. Some friends believed the truth died with Bob, while others clung to the hope that new forensic techniques might one day crack the case. Decades would pass with no definitive resolution, turning Crane's death into one of Hollywood's enduring mysteries. Controversies inevitably followed. Many questioned Crane's private choices. Had he endangered himself by dabbling in sexual escapades with multiple partners or videotaping them in an era before personal privacy laws were robust? Some moralists used his death as a cautionary tale about hidden vices. Others argued these judgments overshadowed the real tragedy. A beloved entertainer murdered in cold blood, the culprit never brought to justice. Historians of television have noted how the scandal cast an unfortunate pall over the memory of Hogan's heroes, making it more challenging for fans to separate Colonel Hogan's cheerful persona from Bob Crane's complicated real life. Meanwhile, the police faced criticism for an investigation many deemed inadequate. Subsequent attempts to re-examine the case in the 1990s using DNA analysis failed to yield conclusive results. For modern audiences, Bob Crane's experience offers a mirror on the precarious nature of fame. A comedic star beloved by millions who couldn't outrun private dilemmas or the lethal turn of events in a modest Arizona apartment. His story suggests that the warm laughter we enjoy on our screens might mask emotional chasms we'll never fully see. The moral questions surrounding his personal activities, like clandestine videotaping, remain relevant in an era when privacy boundaries blur further with every technological innovation. Also, the unsolved nature of his murder invites reflection on how swiftly a life can unravel when overshadowed by secrets and conflicting desires. In essence, Crane's arc underscores the complicated tapestry of stardom, replete with joyous applause on one side and hidden heartbreak on the other. And that's all for today's video. Don't forget to leave a like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe so you'll always be in the loop. Thanks for watching.